Hello and welcome to the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. We have 3 guests today, and let's start off with Tallulah Anderson. She's the founder of 2for2 Boobs, and Tallulah's been on with us before. She's an absolute powerhouse in that area. So we're starting off with Tallulah. Our second guest, Antoinette Barnes. And our third guest is Ricki Fairley. All 3 of you are breast cancer survivors.
Yes.
And today we're talking about a production, a new production that you're involved in. So let's start off, Tallulah, telling us about that production.
Hey, first I want to thank you again for having me back on and really talk about some of the exciting things that is going on with 2for2 Boobs. And I have an exciting venture, and it is a production of a, let's say, we would call monologue play, similar to For Colored Girls Only. And it features 7 wonderful, awesome survivors, breast cancer survivors. And I wanted to do this production because for years I collected stories similar to this one here, which features one of the beautiful ladies here, and I would showcase it at our events. And this is Shade of Pink, and what it is a survivor story, and it tells their journey in their voice, in a way that they wanted to tell their story to be displayed. And I did this to show that everyone's story is different, everyone looks different, everyone detected differently, was diagnosed and treated differently. So I thought about how could I bring this to life? So the thought came, how about a production? So I was blessed enough to know someone at Joe's Movement Emporium, and they donated the space and connected me with a creative director who weaved the stories together, and we're about to showcase this wonderful production.
So Ricki, let's start off with you. Tell us your story.
So I was your typical superwoman of the world, black woman, as we always are, taking care of everybody, right? I was the breadwinner for my family and the rainmaker for my company. I was in a marketing company and running around like a crazy person. And I normally get my checkup, my gynae checkup in July, right after my birthday. And my baby daughter at the time was in China. She'd spent a summer in China after her freshman year at Dartmouth. And I decided, I'm so busy, I'm just gonna wait for Haley to come home and we'll just go to the doctor together and do our appointments together just to save time. So we went to the doctor. She came home from China, we went to the doctor, and my doctor found a lump. And she immediately knew it was cancer, whatever. So I quickly went through the biopsy, the sonogram, all the testing, and literally I got on a plane. I said, I don't really have time for this, I have to take my daughter back to school. I got on a plane, took my daughter back to Dartmouth, and as I was boarding the plane to leave Hanover and leave her, the doctor called and said, yes, Ricki, you do have breast cancer. You need to come home. Well, I was on a plane going away for a 2-week business trip. And I said, I can't come home, I'm busy, I have stuff to do. And she's like, all right, well, when you come back, call me. So I went on my business trip. I was still kind of dealing with the trauma of it, and because she also said it's probably early stage, we probably caught it early, it's okay. So a week went by. I was now in LA doing business, and she called me again and said, you know what, you have triple negative breast cancer. You need to come home. We need to deal with this immediately. So triple negative breast cancer is a subtype of breast cancer, and it's the only breast cancer that does not have a drug to prevent recurrence. We don't have a treatment to prevent recurrence. You may have heard of tamoxifen or Herceptin or something you take for 5 years. We don't have a drug. It's got the highest mortality rate, it's the most aggressive, and it affects black women overall at twice the rate of white women. And it kills us at 3 times the rate. It affects black women under 45 at 3 times the rate and is killing us. So it's really the worst breast cancer you can have and the most aggressive. So I was like, okay, triple negative breast cancer. And at the time, my doctor gave me 2 years to live. I will be 8 in a couple of weeks. So God had another plan for me.
Yes, he did.
And I know that God left me here to do this work. So I've totally focused everything about my life around how I can help more women dealing with breast cancer.
How are you doing that? You're involved with?
I do a lot of things. So,
okay.
I serve as the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships for the Sisters Network. And the Sisters Network is a 25-year-old breast cancer foundation. It's the only national black breast cancer foundation in the country. And we do a lot of advocacy, and we also try to help women in treatment. So we have a service where we actually we'll pay your light bill, we'll get you to chemo, we'll do things for you, we'll give you some money to help you make it through the month, and try to help women who are in treatment and help our sisters. And then we do a lot of advocacy to talk to young women about early detection. So when I had breast cancer, I quit my life and started a new one. When my doctor said, you have 2 years to live, I said, no, you don't understand. I have a daughter at Dartmouth. I have to get her through. I have to pay her tuition, and we have to work this out, me, you, and God. And so I divorced my husband of 30 years.
Did you say your husband?
I had to get rid of all the cancers in my life, so he had to go. And then I divorced my business partners. I had been in business with them. We had a marketing agency in Atlanta. I had been in business with them for 10 years. They had to go. And so, and then I sold my house in the suburbs, 5-bedroom house on 3 acres, and moved to a little 1-bedroom condo on the beach. So I totally changed everything about my life. And then I started my own company when I was between my 3rd and 4th rounds of chemo, because I wanted to be in control of everything as much as I could in my life, me and God.
Very good.
So I really try to focus on helping women deal with stress. And my filter is, I don't know if I can say this on TV, but my filter is, and I learned this from my chemo nurse. She said, have you ever think or say the word asshole? And so in my head, that was what I called my husband and my business partners. I never said it out loud, but so that's my filter. And I tell everyone, if you are thinking that word, you need to leave the room and find another space. And also, I think, breast cancer, you can't prevent it, but early detection is critical, because if you detect it in stage 1 or 2, you can be cured. Right? So I had stage 3A, and then often it turned metastatic. It came back with a vengeance, like triple negative always does, and then it disappeared. So God intervened in my life, and I was able to move on. So I try to tell women to, talk to young women, because right now the mortality rate for Black women with breast cancer is 42% higher than white women, which is crazy.
It is.
It's really the most fatal disease that Black women face. If you think about it, I know a lot of us have diabetes and heart disease, but we are dying at a 42% higher rate than white women. And if you look at Black women under 35, they get it at twice the rate of white women and die at 3 times the rate. And those numbers are just not acceptable. So,
no, they are
so
not.
I try to fight like a girl every day to communicate, talk to women, and help them through this disease.
And what about you, Antoinette? Can you tell us your story?
My story is, I'm always the playful one in the group, always having fun. Everything has always been like a joke to me. I keep everybody happy. So one morning I'm in the mirror playing around, that's what I do, and I noticed this large lump in my neck area. And I said, this lymph node is swollen, what's going on? So I went to see my doctor. She's been my doctor for over 20-something years, and I have some other health issues. But when I got there, she told me, something's wrong. I want you to get a biopsy done as soon as possible. So she scheduled it for like that next Friday. So when I went in to see the doctor, he told me, we're going to do this tomorrow. Well, I was supposed to be leaving to go away for my birthday to Mexico, where I go every year. And I told him, I said, we're going to wait till I come back from Mexico to do this. I don't want to be away and not feel good and not know what's going on. So I came back and they did the biopsy. 3 days later, breast cancer. Well, my grandmother had died of breast cancer. She had 1 breast removed. 5 years later, they took the other one, and then she passed away suddenly. So once they told me that I had stage 2, HER2 positive, and they were going to have to take my right breast, I said, take them both. Let's just get it over with. I was already 58 years old. I knew in 5 more years I didn't want to come back and do this all over again. Right now I'm strong. Let's get it over with. And then I went through the chemo and got some new breasts, and I was happy. I wanted them to be a lot bigger, right? But this is what fit my body, right? And then they radiated one of them like crazy for 3 months. And so, you don't think about the changes your body go through. And so I have 1 like supple breast and 1 hard breast, and you don't think about that because you don't know what radiation is going to do to your body. But I look in the mirror and it's a big change. It's something you have to adjust to.
Every day.
Something every day when I put on something, certain tops I can't wear that don't fasten the right way because your body isn't the way it's supposed to be anymore. I know that I made it through this because it's a purpose for me. right? To spread the word and to get this out because of the personality that I have, and I'm a person that's always reaching out. What I haven't found out yet is what my calling is. So right now I'm in the mix of being a part of everybody's calling.
I have one for her.
When Tallulah calls me, I'm there. When Ricki calls me, anybody that calls me, you want me to speak, you want me to dance, you want me to do anything, I'm a praise dancer. So I like to dance. And so the song that got me through my chemotherapy and all of my radiation and everything is Kurt Carr, For Every Mountain. And I play that in the car, and I can't sing, but you can't tell me I can't sing when it's on.
Right.
When it's on, I can sing just like those praisers. And I'm just feeling good and enjoying life right now. And like we were talking about, that 5-year step, I'm just reaching 2 years this year. So I'm still kind of scared because I know that you have to get past that 5 years before you kind of like feeling good, you know, and everybody's clapping. So right now I'm just praying every day and doing what I can do to keep myself positive because it's going to be okay.
Tallulah mentioned off air that there are some positive words that you all use to sort of help you get through. Tallulah, what are those words, or each person has a word?
So one of the things that that I do, I have always done with 2for2 Boobs, is provide a platform for survivors. And we just not survivors, some are thrivers, and some are still going through. We call them warriors. Right. And I wanted to know from some of the women, what are the 3 words that would describe you? And they came up with their words, and they were, you know, different.
What are your words?
So you put me on the spot because I'm the producer and not part of the production. So I will use the words
to others.
So the words that I would use is actually some of the words that they use or that you'll hear in our production, and that I am beautiful, I am strong, and I am super blessed.
How about you, Antoinette?
My 3 words are I am sassy, I am silly, and I am sexy.
Sounds good.
I kind of cheated a little bit and kind of made sentences, but mine are I am intentional about my purpose, I am passionate about living my best life, and I am blessed beyond measure.
Wonderful, wonderful. Tallulah, take a minute and give us your story and the story behind 2for2 Boobs.
So again, survivor, thriving now, 3-time breast cancer survivor. I'm one of those ones who has a genetic disposition to breast cancer through the BRCA2 gene. So my mom and my dad both had breast cancer. I have 7 brothers and 3 sisters. I'm the youngest girl, and from my siblings, my 2 older sisters are survivors. One is close to a 30-year survivor. And one, she was diagnosed with me 5 years ago when I had a reoccurrence. And I had 2 brothers who...
Which has always been fascinating to me.
Right. 2 brothers, one who was diagnosed late stage, he's no longer here, and one that was recently diagnosed. But what is key is what Ricki mentioned, early detection. So knowing my family history and sharing that with my physicians, they started giving me mammograms early in life. I started doing breast exams early in life. So even though I say 3 times, all 3 times it was early, like stage 0 for 2 and stage 2 for the second one. So the last one, I had to do the chemo route. Lost my hair like Antoinette, and I'm glad she mentioned you go through some body changes. I've had a couple of surgeries on my breast. One because the reoccurrence, they had to take out the lump, and I decided to have all the tissue taken out of the other breast. So trying to get them in alignment and right. After my chemo, I getting keloids, so I keloided this time. So, you know, you have breast issues. I mean, some people psychologically have to deal with looking in the mirror and knowing that you're different. And for me too, when I was told that I had to have chemo, the only thing on my mind was I'm going to lose my hair because I was vain about my hair.
Yes.
And, you know, really, when it started coming out after the second treatment, I started noticing, because I had long, pretty hair. I kept it permed and really nice, and I kept seeing it come out, and then I was doing something crazy like taking it and putting it in a bag. I don't know why I did. And then I was like, okay, one day I just called up my hairdresser, the hairstylist, and I told her, I'm coming in, I just want you to cut it all off. And that's when I really accepted that I was going to lose it. And then right after, I went and tried on wigs and found one that I really didn't like. When I look at the pictures, I'm like, I do not like how my hair was looking. And then eventually, you know, took that wig off and wore scarves and, you know, embraced the new me. And through the process, just like my doctor said, when I said, I'm going to lose my hair, she said, it will grow back. And it did grow back, and this is how it grew back. And now I rock it natural, not knowing that, hey, this is how it was. So this is how God brought it back, and this is how I'm going to wear it.
So, Ricki, how have you passed on the information that you've gained from this experience to your daughter?
So my daughters, I have two daughters, they're 27 and 34, and they were active in this process, you know, all the way. My younger daughter actually took a year off, a semester off from college, and was my chemo person, my chemo buddy. But they, you know, I think, you know, they both were like, you know, okay, am I going to get this? And with triple negative, we don't have a lot of data. We don't have a lot of data. And you know, Tallulah talked about her background, her hereditary situation, but only 5% of breast cancers are hereditary. So a lot of women think I'm off the hook because my mom didn't have it. Well, that is not the case.
Right.
With triple negative, it's only been diagnosed for about 12 years, so we don't really have a history of survivors to even look to see what could happen to my daughters. And so I am extremely careful with them. You know, my oldest daughter just had her second baby, and so as soon as she's done nursing, we're going to have her first mammogram. And they both have had risk assessments with my doctor to talk about when they should start having mammograms based on my history. So it's so important for us to talk about that with our daughters, with our children, and our sons.
And our sons,
and our
right.
sons, that we, you know, because with triple negative, we don't know about the hereditary impact. Science just isn't there yet, but when you know you have it, you should. And even if you don't, you know, that's something that has to be in the conversation at the dinner table. You know, we find a lot of black women, even 25 years ago when Karen founded Sisters Network, her motto was stop the silence, because you know, somebody gets sick and then you start talking about it and you're like, oh, well, Aunt Pookie had that or Aunt Edith died of that, but it doesn't come out till somebody's sick. We shouldn't have that happen. Our families should know our histories and know our herstories. And know what's going on with our families so that we can, you know, share the knowledge. And again, early detection is critical. You can't prevent it, but you can do things to take precautions.
And that you are urging your daughter.
Yes. Oh,
after the baby, let's do
We're
this.
doing this.
You need to get this done.
Mammogram.
This is urgent.
Yes, and they welcome it. I also said, have your babies, nurse the babies, use your boobs for what they're made for, and then we're just going to cut them off and get new ones. You know, my little fake ones, and my little fake ones are bigger than the ones that try to kill me, but don't get attached to them because they're, you know, once they serve the function of nursing, you know, get a pair that you love. You know.
Antoinette, how did you come to a new normal with your own body? I mean, because one of the descriptions you said for yourself was sexy. So how did you come to terms with your body image after?
It was hard. You know what? I think one of the hardest things to say, and I praise the Lord all the time, I'm very vain. And I know that, right? And so when I went to the mirror and first looked at myself, I would cry. I was like, look at my body, and I had radiation. This whole side of me was black. On this side and on the back of me, completely black. And I would just look in the mirror, and it was just so sad. And first of all, they told me I wasn't even going to be able to get breast for like 6 months. But after I had the everything removed, they put me in the hyperbolic chamber, right, for like 2 weeks. And the doctor walked in and said, we're going to give you some new breasts next week. And I'm like, are you serious? How big can they be? I was ready. I was so ready. And she was like, well, if you make them real big, then it's going to take a long time and you want to be comfortable. Look at how you're small. And I was like, you know what? Chick, be happy with what you have, you know. And I was single. I think that's what makes it harder, or that's what I thought made it harder. I wasn't in a relationship with somebody who I could say, baby, this is what it is, and they went with me through the whole thing. I was single, and I kept thinking about going back out to meet people again and how I was going to be perceived or how I was going to feel, you know, even in my clothes and everything. And, you know, sitting at home, and this is my daughter and my son. My son is 30, my daughter's 36. When I was going through chemo, my son moved home. And he moved home, and him and my daughter went through chemo with me. And they sat me down pretty much and were like, you need to just embrace who you are and what you are and let all of that go. And it's funny, your friends can say it, your mom can say it, anybody can say it. But when your kids are sitting there telling you, you're beautiful, they both shaved off their heads and came to my house bald while I was bald, right? They walked in and they both were bald, and I cried. So, I mean, how could I not listen? So I think the best part was that I had a very good plastic surgeon who I worked with. GW was my whole team. I praised them, and they took good care of me. The one thing she kept telling me, they'll never be how they were before, but nothing in life is. And if you look at your body, one side of your whole body is, you're not asymmetric.
Right.
We aren't asymmetric. We think that we are, but we aren't. And I'm just like, you have to embrace this. So my joke that I gave myself was, the last time I went in, she says, well, Antoinette, I've done all I can do. The left one is up a little bit and the right one is twisted this way a little bit. And I told her, I said, that's okay. Because when I meet that man whose eyes, I said, he'll look at them and he'll think they're wonderful. And we're going to keep it moving.
Right.
So I've embraced it now. And, you know, it is what it is. When I put on something and it doesn't fit, it wasn't right, that's not what I'm supposed to have. But you know what? I don't have to wear a bra if I don't want to anymore.
Right.
That's a good thing. You don't even have to. It is what it is.
That's marvelous.
You don't even have to
No
worry about
bra.
that. You don't have to worry about all that under stuff anymore. So life is good, and you just accept it and keep going.
And your
because I
faith.
didn't have to be here.
Your faith played a big role
Big
for you.
part.
Faith
That's
is
it.
everything.
Didn't have to be here.
That's intertwined in all of our stories. And like I said, different faces, different ages. We have in the production women much younger, different backgrounds, education, but that thread is we were all diagnosed with breast cancer, and how we dealt with it is all different. Everybody doesn't deal with it the same, and which you'll see in shades of pink or our voices or stories is not just talking and telling our stories, but you'll see some poetry, some dance, you'll see some creative, dramatic presentation, and you'll be educated. So,
And knowledge is power.
and knowledge is power, yes. And even though it's a live production, it's probably going to be on tape afterwards. So, you know, if you're not able to attend, you probably will be able to see it afterwards.
Yes, and at the end of the show, we'll give all of your website information, because I'm sure you'll be putting it up on your website so people can access it.
Yes.
You know, at their leisure.
Yes.
You were going to say something earlier about your faith.
Oh, I think faith is what got me through. I know that God left me here to do this work, and I know I shouldn't be here, and so, you know, faith, and I mean, you know, we all took a faith walk.
Yeah, we did.
Because, and part of it, you know, I always say, you know, a lot of black women say, well, I don't want to get my breast checked. I may find something, and I'm just going to give it to God. Well, guess what? Faith without works is dead.
That's right.
So I prayed for God to work through my doctors, to work through my chemo nurse.
I've heard that before.
I know.
Please say it again.
I know. You know, we do give it to God. God, please take me. But faith without works is dead.
Yes.
You've got to pray to God that. You know, I prayed with my chemo nurse every chemo infusion. I prayed with my doctor. I prayed with my plastic surgeon. I made everybody pray as a part of it. I prayed through my surgeries. So I think that, you know, faith clearly is my rock. You know, because when you put that first infusion in your port, here's my little scar, you know, you're like, okay.
I have one of those.
We all do.
I love you all.
Yes.
You know, we're jumping off a cliff with God.
That's
you know,
it.
hey God, let's jump off this cliff,
Yes.
and we're going to pray that this stuff that you're putting in here is working for me. But you know, our faith is our foundation. but we've got to make it work for us.
How long did it take to get the production together?
This is the quickest production.
Wow.
But you know what? When something is meant to be, isn't it
And that's
interesting
why I
how
know-
it all falls into place?
Yes.
I know the director
And-
keeps saying, you got to learn your lines.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God, okay. Yeah.
All things work for good.
For good.
And it was totally a blessing that just one day I was sitting next to the person who owns the studio, and I just mentioned to her about the stories and how I'd like to bring it to life. She said, come talk to me, let me hear more. And next thing I know, she's donating it, and I knew the women, I knew a lot about the story, so I already had in my mind who I would want to be a part, because I knew that they would, the stories were different, and I knew they could deliver it. And so it's taken about 2 months to pull it together, practice, but it's their stories and they tell it in their way. So the creative director, her name is Annalisa Gilliard, she just lets them do them, gives them some guidance, but it's pretty much them telling her story in different ways, exciting. It'll be inspiring, some laughter, some tears, some cheering, some advocacy, let me get involved. So it's a little bit of everything. And like you said, a person I knew who did promo spots, I mentioned to her, hey, I'm doing this production, I really want a promo spot. She's like, well, let me see. Her and her husband came and filled the promo spot, and I was like, well, how much is it going to be? And she was like, oh, we do pro bono, and I'm going to do pro bono for this for you. Yeah. So, you know, those things all coming together.
Worked out.
Yes. And when something is meant to be,
yes, it
just
is meant
falls
to be
into place.
Yes.
It falls into place.
And I'm so busy, and everybody's, you have time to do this too? And I'm like, I'll find the time, because I know one thing that we have is we're a community, we're sisters, we call each other Pink Sis, and you know, we have each other's back, or if we can't, we're going to find some way to help.
And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to put all of the information at the end of the show. People can access, you know, or go to your website, access the production, and do what they need to do to get the word out here. Because as we say, as we said, information is power. And you have no idea who you're helping. We have no idea who's going to see this program and who's going to be blessed.
Right.
By
and just
the
like
information.
my motto, take 2 minutes to check your two. Just takes 2 minutes.
2 for 2.
2 for 2.
We've been talking to Tallulah Anderson, Antoinette Barnes, and Ricki Fairley, and the production is Shades of Pink.
Shades of Pink.
Shades
our
of Pink.
voices, our stories.
You've been watching the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Have a great day.